Good evening. Hello, how are you? I'm very excited to be here with you this afternoon, especially because it's all about a new trip. And who doesn't love talking about a new trip and a new destination? So, yes, that's got me very excited. I've had lots of lovely messages and comments all about this new itinerary to Indonesia. So, I am super excited to be talking to you about it this afternoon. So, welcome. If you are here, please jump in the comments, say hello, let me know where you're tuning in from. Give me a little like or a love on Facebook so I know that you've popped by, just so I can say thank you. I am always really grateful for your time, so I'm not going to spend longer than 30 minutes, so you can hold me accountable to that. There is a lot to talk about, but of course, I'm always up for a phone chat. So if this trip has tickled your fancy and you think you can see yourself on it, please make a booking to have a phone chat with me and we can talk all through it. Otherwise, you might be just convinced after this Facebook Live and just, want to book yourself straight in, which is also very good. I will pop the trip itinerary link in the comments so that you can see that. And if you want to, you can jump on afterwards and have a look at some of the details. Linda's here. Hi, Linda. How are you? It's lovely to have you here. It's so nice to have familiar faces and regulars come along to these Facebook Lives. I am always very appreciative of that. So thank you very much. So, many of you know all about Pip Co Travel, but I will just do a very quick intro. I'm Penny. I am the founder of Pip Co Travel. This is my second year in operation, and I am focused on running small group trips for women to Asia, various parts of Asia, as well as I am doing my first family trip this year in July to Vietnam, which is also very exciting. So far destinations include Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Borneo, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and now Indonesia as well, with a couple of new destinations coming on board for 2027. So thank you to everyone who voted. If you haven't voted, there's still time. I've had heaps of votes on the top destinations you'd like to see next year. So thank you very much. Um, I really am keen to share my love of Asia in particular and travel most definitely with women who also love to do things a little bit differently, like have a little bit more of a closer connection to the place they're visiting, have an interest in the cultural history aspect of the place, language, food, the history side is really, really interesting. I think we can learn so much about places when we have really a lovely cultural kind of element to the trips that we undertake. Definitely people to people connections are so important, and I really like to focus on that in my trips as well as supporting local communities, local economies. I think that is one of the most important things about tourism and a definite positive to tourism globally. And if we can all travel so that our money and I guess, all that goodwill that we bring from a social perspective as well as an economic perspective can be put back into communities. I just think that is a beautiful thing and something we can all do. Oh, it's so lovely. Lois is here. Hi, Lois. Sarah, hello. Ange, hello. Oh, this is so lovely. Hi, Fran. And I love that in the comments says people who have been on trips together saying hello to each other in the comments as well. And that is such a lovely thing about the Pip Co travel community is that people have got to know each other and meet up on other trips as well. So I think that's just a really beautiful thing. Megan's here too. Hi, Megan. Yeah, so that I'm very lucky. Well, we're all very lucky that this community exists and that we are building such a great crew of women travelers from Australia who are traveling across to Asia. So, Indonesia, it's so close to us, yet I bet there's lots of us who haven't been past Bali in Indonesia at all. And I think this is why this trip is probably appealing to so many people because there's so much to know about the country that is just at the top of ours. So for this trip, it's 11 days in August this year, 2026. The starting point is Jakarta and the end point is Ubud in Bali. So if you can imagine Indonesia, the island of Java is quite kind of quite long and skinny, like an eggplant. Java's at one end, and the island of Bali is off the other end of Java. So this trip kind of travels right across. Um, and I think what a fantastic way to get a beautiful introduction to Indonesia, and especially if you've never been, or if you have been but you've never been outside of Bali, I think this would be fantastic. Actually, I'd like to know in the comments, has anyone been to Indonesia before? Um, Sarah hasn't even been to Bali. Yes, with you here. um, if you've been to Indonesia or you haven't, let me know in the comments. I'm really curious. It will be my first time going to Indonesia. I've been to one island in Indonesia, but I'm not counting it. It's too close to Singapore. I don't think it counts. So I have been working with this amazing local company who I've worked with before to create this itinerary, and of course I will be coming on this trip in August because it's the first time. I want to suss it all out properly with everyone, and be there just in case things don't go super smoothly because it is the first time. But on all my first trips, everything has gone super smoothly, even then they've been the first time, so I have no doubt that things will go smoothly. Linda had never been, not even to Bali. Ange never been either. Lois had been to Bali many times. Fran has been as well. Yes, so there's a little bit of a mix. And I wonder sometimes if you're in WA like Lois, maybe it is a little bit easier to get across as well. Um, so the starting point, like I said, is in Jakarta. So you'll be flying into Jakarta to start the trip there, and then you'll be flying out of Denpasar in Bali. So your airport transfer down from Ubud to Denpasar Airport will be included in the trip as well. I'll go through flights in a minute, but the great thing is flight access out of the major cities in Australia into Jakarta and out of Denpasar is really good. So flights will be easy and straightforward and not super expensive either. Climate, I know this is a big thing for every traveller, and so it should be. In Java, in August, it's the end of the peak season, so the weather is pretty optimum. It's hot, it's sunny, average temperature of around 30 degrees, pretty high humidity, although slightly less than earlier in the peak season. Bali is similar, sunny, dry, averages of about 27. Slightly cooler in Ubud as well, just because there's a slight elevation. So it's going to be pretty warm, and pretty sunny and dry for that time of year in Bali, which I think, even though it's hot, it's great to have dry weather. Um, so the dates are 10 nights from the 5th to the 15th of August. It's 3,195 per person for a twin share. And if you would like your own room, that is also possible. And that's an extra $975 for that entire time for your own room. So that takes it up to 4,070. And I'm excited to say I will be doing an early bird booking bonus for this trip too. Which has been super successful. I think on the previous trips I've done, and I think people have snapped those up, which is great. So the first two women to book on for this trip will receive a free night in Jakarta before the tour begins on Tuesday, the 4th of August, valued at AUD $125. So that's just perfect for people who want to arrive the night before, just, to rest, recover after the flight, get to look around Jakarta, because actually we're not spending much time in Jakarta at all on this trip. So if you did want to spend some time and have a look around, there is lots to see. Arriving the night before might suit you as well. So if you don't want to, that's also fine as well. You can arrive on the first day, which is Wednesday, the 5th of August, Um, Try and arrive in the morning or around lunchtime just so that you can get into your hotel ready to kind of freshen up, relax, have a look around if you want to in the afternoon before we all get together in the evening to meet each other, meet our local Indonesian guide, and have our welcome dinner and our first proper Indonesian meal. Um, so that'll be your only time in Jakarta because we will head off first thing the next morning. So have a think about what will suit you best for that. The reason I started in Jakarta was primarily because of air access and just making a lot of sense for Australian visitors rather than starting in Yogyakarta when you need to book an additional airfare anyway. This way we can all get together in Jakarta and take the train across to Yogyakarta, which I'm very much looking forward to. So that's day two. It's a big day of train travel going across Java, or across half of Java, to another major city called Yogyakarta. And it's got a great vibe. It's a student city, it's a cultural arts city, it's a foodie city. There's lots to love about Yogyakarta. And we have got 3 nights there, which is fantastic. So, a lot of time to kind of get over the train travel and enjoy the city and to have a look around. Um, Lois has said yes, it's only 3 hours for her. So, yeah, that is nice and close, isn't it? Um, Megan's been to Bali lots of times but wants to do Indonesia differently. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. And Claire, Ubud many times to see ceremonies and taste the food. Lovely. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, it's really interesting to see lots of people have had um, different, experiences and stuff. And, it's nice to do something different. Megan says, I YouTube the train, it looks great. Yes, the train is going to be a highlight for sure. So on day two, we will be taken to the train station in Jakarta and we will hop on the train to Yogyakarta. So we'll be in the executive class, which is kind of like a second class, but it looks pretty good actually. Um, Big reclining seats, footrest, lots of leg room, really good air conditioning, so much so that you probably will need some sort of wrap or cardigan just to make sure you don't get too chilly. Only 2 seats on each side. They're quite decent kind of lounges. I've said in my itinerary to allow about 8 hours for the journey, but I have taken to account the kind of transfers at both ends. So the train trip itself is around 6 to 6.5 hours. So it is a long day, but I think it'll be really worth it to see all the scenery across Java and just travel in a different way. So that's day two, and then we pretty much have the rest of the evening in Yogyakarta free to explore before we get up the next day for day three. And we head out to a Javanese village and have a look around at a traditional village and take a horse and cart ride. And I think that'll be, something a little bit different as well. Before one of the highlights of any visit to Indonesia, which is seeing the Borobudur temple, which is the largest Buddhist temple in the entire world. Dates back to the 9th century. It is considered, one of the greatest archaeological sites in, all of Southeast Asia. So pretty up there. So that is on day three, and you are allowed to climb Borobudur Temple, but there is a quota on the number of people that can climb each day. So climbing is not guaranteed, but we will do our absolute best to get the ticket to climb as well. Talking about climbing, I was just going to talk a little bit about some of the fitness kind of elements of this trip because overall I've kind of graded it as an easy to moderate level trip. There's not a lot of, over kind of, I guess, tricky fitness stuff. There are 2 hikes on 2 separate days around Mount Bromo, which I'll talk about later. But the main fitness requirements are general kind of travel things, getting in and out of vehicles and trains, carrying your luggage for a short distance, going up and down stairs, walking around temple complexes, being able to stand for a couple of hours, walking 10,000 steps a day. But I think being able to deal with the heat and humidity as well is obviously another thing for to take into account. Saying all that, people who have traveled with Pip and Co Travel before know that all fitness levels are always taken into account. The groups are always so kind and supportive and inclusive. No one ever gets left behind. Nothing is mandatory. So the two hikes I mentioned before are both optional as well. So even if you're not feeling 100% and you don't want to do it, there is no compulsion to take part in those walks either. So that was just a little aside while I was talking about walking and fitness and climbing. Um, Day 4, we're still in Yogyakarta, and this time we're taking a becak, which is a traditional rickshaw around the city. So we're seeing some of the main sites of the city, including the square and the Sultan's Palace Museum, and also the Prambanan Temple, which is another famous temple, this time a Hindu temple. So I think that will be super fun, lots to see and take in as well, and maybe a chance for some shopping, some tasty food, some wandering around, enjoying the beautiful atmosphere of Yogyakarta. Day 5, it's another train trip. And it is almost as long as well. This time we'll be taking the train to Malang, and it's similar train, beautiful, comfortable seats, aircon. Malang is a smaller city. It's a hilltop city, so it's a slight elevation, so it will be slightly cooler, which I think will be nice after a few days of Jakarta and Yogyakarta. Dutch colonial architectural influences. Again, it's a very cultural student population city, so there's a really great atmosphere there. The hotel in Malang is our feature stay for this trip. It's called Hotel Tugu Malang. I might just pop that in the comments because it is pretty cool. It's full of collector items. You can have a look on the booking portal as well. But yeah, it was built by the founder to host his priceless collection of Javanese antiquities, and it does look pretty amazing. So I'm looking forward to staying there as well. And also it's a nice 4.5, 5-ish star property as well. So the reason we're in Malang, as well as it being beautiful hilltop and a great spot on the train, is that the jumping off point for Mount Bromo volcano. Now, you might have seen pictures of this. It is pretty stunning. It is definitely on the hit list of Indonesian domestic travelers as well as international travelers because the views are pretty amazing. It is an active volcano. So that is a disclaimer that it is active. So of course, all the safety kind of things will be monitored, because if there is a chance that there's something going on, we will not be visiting or climbing. And they do close it as well. So just to keep that in mind. But on this day, we'll be traveling by Jeep in and around Mount Bromo to see a few different sites. There's something called the Sea of the Sand, which is volcanic ash that surrounds Mount Bromo, the crater rim, and that's part of the trek when you can get up onto the edge of the volcanic crater itself, and the viewpoint. So the crater rim is one of the hikes I mentioned earlier, and it's steep, and it's around 200 to 250 steps, and it takes around 30 to 40 minutes depending on how fast you do it. So if you don't want to do it, that's perfectly fine. You can stay at the base and just kind of look up anyway. So that's just something to keep in mind. No food and drinks at Mount Bromo, so we will have a lunch box, but of course, if you want to bring any other drinks or snacks, you'll have a chance to buy those the previous day as well. Day 7, back to Mount Bromo, and this time for sunrise. So the Jeep again will take us to the viewpoint, and then it's a short half an hour walk of a moderate level from the car park to the viewpoint to see the sunrise. Again, if you would prefer not to do that, that is also fine as well. So after we've had all these amazing Mount Bromo experiences, we are traveling by car this time off to Kalabaru, another kind of hilltop town. It's at an elevation of around 428 meters, so nice and, semi-elevated, cool again. Lots of rainfall up there. It's very green. Lots of coffee plantations, fruit orchards, lots of kind of horticulture going on up in Kalabari. So that will be a really nice change. So we will spend the night there and visit a plantation where we will see lots of things grown: coconuts, coffee, spices, herbs, palm sugar. The owner of the plantation, Mrs. Hannick, also runs a charity for local children and families, helping them go to school. So some of our visit fees will go towards that as well. And then we're on the ferry across to the island of Bali. So the ferry's around half an hour. And we go across from the end of Java, the tip of Java, across to the western side of Bali. And on the ferry, we'll pass by the West Bali National Park, and we're staying in Pematuran on the northwestern side of the island of Bali. And the resort looks absolutely stunning. I will put this in the comments so you can just have an idea of the name of the place we'll be staying. Right on the water and on a beautiful lagoon inlet close to an island called Menjagan Island, which is where we'll be going snorkeling the next day as part of this marine national park as well. So day 9 is snorkeling day. The trip to get to the snorkeling is about 30 minutes on the boat. Snorkeling's a half day, so it's about a 4-hour kind of session, and you'll get to go to 2 different spots on that snorkeling trip, and lunch will be included as well. And I think that will be really, really nice. And then the afternoon will be at your leisure at the resort, which will also be very nice. Day 10, the next day, and it's off to Ubud. So not too far away. Ubud is, I guess, the spiritual hub of Bali. It's so well known. And on this day, we'll be visiting the Ulandalan Temple. It's a Balinese Hindu temple. Plus, I think a highlight for many visitors is seeing the really stunning rice terraces, which Ubud and that part of Bali have become so well known for. Something on this day that's just a little bit different is taking part in a Balinese home remedies workshop. So going to a local home where we'll learn about medicinal plants, have a chance to pick them and learn what to do with them, get to try out some remedies, and also we will have a vegetarian lunch there as well. So the resort in Ubud also looks really lovely. It's called the Arma Museum and Resort. And we just have the one night there. So if you are keen to extend your stay, that is also possible as well. And you can let me know and I can book you in for an additional night. But then day 11, and we've had our farewell dinner the night before, and after brekkie on day 11, depending on what time your flight is, you'll be taken down to Denpasar Airport. You do need to allow about 1.5 hours for that road transfer as well. And yeah, that's the final bit of the trip. So that is some of, a rough outline of the itinerary. I've talked a little bit about some of the highlights. Definitely, the train travel, seeing some of Indonesia's most famous sites like Borobudur Temple, Mount Bromo volcano, Yogyakarta, staying beachside right near the Marine National Park in northwestern Bali, going snorkeling, being in Ubud, seeing those beautiful rice terraces, eating all that amazing Indonesian Balinese food. I think, nasi goreng, satay, rendang, gado-gado, all the fish and kind of chicken specialities. Also, one thing I will say too for anyone with dietary requirements, Indonesian Balinese food is very adaptable. So anyone that might be vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, halal, these things can be completely easily catered for. So just let me know when you're booking. There's a little section on the booking portal that you can fill in if you have a dietary requirement, just so we know to make, take advance notice so we can organise that. I've talked about fitness and all the accessibility stuff. There's some visa requirements, so I will definitely be keeping in touch as we get closer to departure just to make sure you're on top of the visa and e-arrival card information. All the inclusions are pretty straightforward: airport transfers, all the meals, fantastic accommodation, entrance fees, attractions, activities, all the transport. The things that you do need to allow for, obviously, is your international airfare, the visa costs, the travel insurance, which you'll need to get, extra money for tipping, which we will talk about closer to the trip. We usually do a kitty pool, a certain amount of money, which I kind of work out in my head before the trip and say, okay, it's this amount. And then either our local guide, myself, whoever's there hosting the trip is responsible for kind of doling out the tips as we go. So no one has to have cash on them to work out tips, and no one is responsible for kind of working out how much to give people, which I think takes the stress out of tips for sure. And I'm just trying to think if I've forgotten anything that's not included. I guess just all the extra meals. There are 10 brekkies, 6 lunches and 2 dinners included. So there are a lot of meals included, but you will need to budget for some extra meals. Megan, I love the sound of that so much. Oh, that's good to hear. I love talking about it. It just gets me very excited. Megan has also said who we be flying with. That is a great question, Megan. And I did have that down on my little notes about flights and airlines from particular cities. So flying to Jakarta from Melbourne and Sydney, there is Qantas, and from Perth with Batik Air. Brisbane, you need to fly via Denpasar, fly via Bali, and that can be on Jetstar, Virgin or Batik. Adelaide is also via Denpasar or Perth with AirAsia or Jetstar or Batik. So they're the options for getting to Jakarta. So some great direct options and some from Brizzy and Adelaide via Denpasar. Coming home, some really great direct options. So all the major cities except for Adelaide will have direct options from Denpasar, and that will be with Jetstar, Virgin, Batik, and in some cities there is a Qantas flight. I know Melbourne has a Bali Qantas one. So I will be flying across from Melbourne on Qantas, and then coming home, I don't know. I will just see which one looks a good time and one of the cheapest options, but probably Jetstar is one of my options, or Qantas as well, just because I collect Qantas points. So even if it's Jetstar, I don't mind because I still get points for that, which is great. So with flights and with all Pip Co Travel trips, I can't book your flights, but I'm always very happy to help research flight options and give you some suggestions about routes and airlines and times, particularly if you're in a city that doesn't have a direct option. So yeah, always happy to help with flight kind of research and suggestions. Are there any questions about Indonesia, about this trip, about the inclusions, about what to expect? Anything that I should cover before we wrap up. I'm just seeing if I've covered everything. I think it's a really nice snapshot of definitely two major visited islands in Indonesia, being Java and Bali. I think it's going to be a really lovely chance to get to know Indonesia in a deeper, kind of more meaningful way, and to see, I guess, just to see Javanese life up close. I mean, there's going to be city life in Jakarta and Yogyakarta, and then kind of more regional city life in Malang, and then Kalabari is different again. So I think we're really going to enjoy seeing the differences throughout Java as well. And also, of course, taking the train and being on public transport. Not only does it have environmental benefits because we're not adding more, cars and buses to the road, but we're getting to travel with local people, domestic travelers, business travelers, families, visiting families, and I think that's always really nice. Megan has said, when will you know when you have the numbers to make it viable? I am going full steam ahead. So, as long as there's a couple, two or three people booked on, it will be going ahead. I think it helps that I will be on this one. So that's definitely one number. And I've had quite a lot of interest. So if you're interested in the trip, you can register without, putting your deposit down. There's a little form on the booking system which just gets your name and email and your phone number put into the system, and then within 7 days it'll ask you for your deposit as well. So if for any reason I do need to cancel the trip, of course your deposit will be refunded, but I do not see that as happening, given that there's been some great interest. And yeah, it's really sounded like a fantastic trip with a lot of people keen to give it a go. So if you are interested at all, I'd suggest you just register yourself. No obligation, of course. If you decide not to pay the deposit or not to come, that is fine. But at least you've got your name down, and then you can proceed to make a phone call with me if you'd like to chat through the trip further, or you can go through and pay the deposit. So the deposit is $500. And sorry, I'm reading comments and writing at the same time. It's not a good idea, is it? The deposit's $500, and then the remaining owing, so depending whether you've booked a twin or a single, will be due 90 days before the trip departs. So I'm just trying to work backwards in my head, but it'll be like the second week of May, roughly, if I've got that correct. There is a date on here that you can double check. But of course, if you would like a payment plan put together, I can definitely do that. That's really easy in this booking system to do payment installments. So please just let me know. Very happy to do that. And you can pay by credit card, or you can pay by direct transfer as well. If there are no other questions, so Megan, I've got that one. Thank you. Deb says, I've been eyeing this trip off for a while now. Looks very tempting. Thanks, Deb. It was great that you could join the live and hopefully find out a bit more. And if you have any more questions or you're keen, you can, like I said, just put your name down, and then we can go from there. Megan said she's super keen. That is great. It would be, fantastic. If there's something I haven't covered this afternoon that you would like to ask, please get in touch. You can send me an email, you can send me a message. Always happy to get in touch. And I have very much enjoyed talking with you all, or talking at you all this afternoon. I'm very excited about this trip. I think it's going to be amazing. And I hope that I will get to see some of you in real life in August in Jakarta. Yay! Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a really lovely Friday night and long weekend. And I will speak to you very soon. Thank you.